roll call, please.
Gregor,
Here.
Jolfs,
Here.
Godey,
Yep.
Honkala,
Here.
Hess.
Here.
All right, all present. So we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, turning to our prepared agenda, agenda item number 4 is the consent agenda. For the benefit of the public, those items that are marked in asterisks on the agenda are generally dealt with in one vote as a consent agenda, unless, do any counselors want to pull anything out of the consent agenda?
I'd like to pull 7.1, the disbursements for January 2023, please.
And counselors, any others? All right, so I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 7.1.
Also move.
Moved, support.
Support.
Moved and supported. Further discussion, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's adopted. I think at this point we could probably just move to 7.1
Yep.
with it. Counselor Joffs?
So, well, there's one thing that I wanted to discuss, the costing group on our, everything that we are paying for disbursements and stuff. When our contract is now over with them, so I'm assuming we are done, correct? Because that's $12.50 a month, Lindsay?
Yes.
We are done, so do we have to do anything to say that we're done with them? Do we cancel, or is it on a month-to-month basis that we're paying them? I just want to make sure we are done.
I haven't looked at the contract recently, but if the terms is up and it doesn't have, a continuation clause in it, then you should, by action, direct Lindsay to say, well, our contract is done and thank you very much. We don't plan on renewing it if that's what the council's intent is.
Okay. So,
What have they done for us?
Well, they've been down lobbying
have they
for
done
last
for
year.
us?
Huh?
I'm asking, what did they do for us?
Yeah, well, all I know is they try to round up support for various things. We've got 2 bills that I believe are in related to Aurora that they're probably working on that have to do with the $2.5 million for the St. James Pit matters and the $630,000 for the community center. Yeah, but other than that, I guess my personal thought would be maybe we ought to invite them to give an explanation of what they did for the money we gave them.
So do you get any kind of report from them on what they do?
I get emails and calls every once in a while, but not a summary report, no.
So you don't know whether they're doing anything or not?
Well, I know they're doing something because the calls I get are frantic when they're down in the legislature.
Other than
What they're
sending us a-
doing on specifically on the city things, I think, while this is perhaps an unfortunate time to get during the legislative session to have them do a report, I would think we should ask them to give some kind of a summary or accounting of what did we get for our money. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. But to your point, all right, so we don't know the exact status of the contract, but I assume
I don't know when
the
it
council.
lapsed. I don't know if.
Well, I just saw the expiration date. I don't know if there's a clause in there that would state otherwise.
I did ask Kimberly about it, and it was her opinion that at the end of the contract we were done, but we should check on
we
it.
should check on that clause to make sure that we're
Right
done.
now, the legislature's in session with a $17 billion surplus, so if you're gonna get some money, this would be the session you're gonna get some money.
Well, to act upon your concerns, Councilor Joss, maybe we could direct the city attorney to work with the city staff and find out what the status of the contract is, and then could we add on to that, inviting them to give us an accounting?
They've come in person before, so accounting and or in person, but with the legislature in session, I know they're down there.
Could it be Zoom?
Could be, yeah, it seems to me that they at least could appear by Zoom.
Yeah.
Well, we pay out $15,000 a year, we should get some kind of report from them.
seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Do we need a motion for that? I wonder if, to dispose of it, Councilor Joffs, do you want a motion to direct the city attorney to work with the city staff to find out the contract status and for the city staff to ask for some kind of an accounting from the Costin Group?
I'll make that motion.
All right, there you
Thanks,
go. Moved and supported. All right, any further discussion on that matter? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
We got one more item in there too. Wayne, this would be for Wayne, what's the new snow blower for the wastewater plant? What's,
Well, what's the question?
did you buy a new snow blower for wastewater plant?
Yes, I do believe Jim did purchase one.
What was wrong with the other one?
It's going to get moved to the new water plant.
To the new water plant?
Well, it's at the old one now, but it will get moved to the new one when it's done.
All right,
Well,
so,
Hold on, so if it's gonna go to the new water plant, but it's not needed at this moment, why would we buy one now? Is there a good deal on them, or what?
I guess you'd have to ask your water supervisor that question. He's now in charge of his own budget, so.
Okay.
all right, moving on the agenda. Appearances, Mr. Segler, are you have anything to share with the council?
Well, no, not tonight.
Not tonight, all right.
Just
and,
back up, we pulled 7-1, are we gonna act to approve that now
Oh.
after we
Yes.
discussed it?
That makes sense. So the version I have doesn't actually have a figure in it, but is there a motion to approve the 7.1 item?
I'll make a motion to approve it with the changes.
Moved and.
And I'll support.
Support, moved and supported. Any further discussion on that? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Thank you, council, for keeping us straight and narrow there. And then public appearances, deputy clerk, is there anyone else who's? All right. Let's see, reports from staff members, I think. Agenda item 11, turn to our deputy clerk, the absence of our city administrator is out.
Yeah, so that's my first topic of discussion. We have a new city administrator, Lucas Hakela. He was here a week, a lot of great progress. We actually had a staff meeting, it went very well, so we're very excited to see where he takes the city of Aurora and to work with him. The gambling proceeds policy has been established, so that is in our policies folder. If counselors would like a copy, I can send one out to them, but that just basically is exactly what we stated at the last meeting, that it will remain within our school district. And clerk's office has been working on closing up things for the year of 2022, and that's about it, so that's my
Good.
report.
Thank you for report. Public Works Director Thuringer, report.
Well, just preview for the people that live on St. James Pit. We commenced dewatering on January 16th. We've dropped the level about 5 inches, so it appears we're dropping about 1.25 inches per week. And last year we dewatered through May, so we're gonna have to hope for a dry spring and summer, because that's not gonna take us down quite to where we wanna be, but we are making progress, so. Other than that, it's been pretty quiet, not a lot of snowstorms, so looking forward to spring.
Very good. Thanks for report.
Can I ask a
Member-
quick question, Wayne? Is there something that, like, now that the water's dropping, is it something that we have to worry about people going on the ice if the water starts dropping and then there's a gap between the ice and the actual water level?
I don't really think so, because it drops so slow, I think everything
Okay.
settles with it, you know, it's not
Okay,
like it's
I
a
just wanna make
drastic.
sure for safety search purposes. Thank you.
Librarian Baker.
Okay. Yeah, we've been pretty busy. Rebecca and I have been working on, well, our priorities first, and then we spend a little extra time reorganizing and exploring new options that we can offer the community, and it's been going well. Strategic planning is in place, annual reporting is in place, so lots going on. The winter reading program has started. We have 31 people signed up so far, and still time to sign up if anybody's interested. That ends March 13th. And then next Friday, I'll be attending the summer reading program kickoff over at ALS. It was scheduled for last week for Rebecca and I to both attend, but the weather told us no, so we rescheduled on that one. We hosted a story time yesterday with Renee Kuroshek. She's a local author who writes children's books, and she came and read to some kids and donated the books to the children as well, so that was very appreciative for her. And some upcoming events, we have Knitting with Nancy next Thursday and Friday. There are still some spots open on Thursday if anybody'd like to learn how to knit. And in March, we have 321 Art Studios coming in to do a 4-week painting activity, so that's pretty exciting. And we are currently in our second wave of interviews for the circulation clerk, and hopefully we will have somebody by the end of next week and can present that to you. And we also still have one opening for the library board, so hoping to fill that by the end of the month as well.
Thank you for that report. All right, city attorney?
Just what's on the agenda, Mayor.
All right, thank you. How about our outside consultant? Are you on the agenda otherwise? I don't think so,
I'm
Brian.
not, so yeah, this.
So this, can regard you as an auxiliary staff here. Okay.
All right, thank you. So in terms of engineering updates, I got several different projects to kind of quickly go through. So Pine Grove Park, the parking lot addition. In last month, we did a presentation for CDBG, and the city was awarded $50,000 grant through CDBG for that project. We're currently working on IRRB grant, targeting $30,000 for that project as well. And then we're preparing a proposal for you guys to consider to actually do the design of the parking lot. So the goal would be when spring comes and things thaw out, that we could get a survey done and then design that parking lot and get it constructed this upcoming construction season. So that's the parking lot at Pine Grove Park. If there's any questions on that project.
What about the old parking lot? What is your intent with that?
Do you know?
Well, we would consult to the master plan that we
Which
read.
would be the pickleball court, but some of that plan has changed now.
Yeah, so, that parking lot gets minimized, most of it would be tore up, and I think there was just one row of parking running from east to west,
Okay.
you know, along the edge of the playground there. That's what's on the plan anyway, but we seem to be faltering from our plan a little bit every once in a
We'll
while.
have to revisit that during the Parks Committee.
Right, and just a reminder, I asked Josh for one of those bigger boards of that park plan.
Okay.
So for when these questions come up, maybe we could pull it out and everybody can get a view of it.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be good once we kind of get into the layout this spring, is to go back through some of those details, so you guys know exactly what you're getting and you can address any of those ancillary items. So,
And I think it's important to stick to that plan as much as possible, otherwise what we're doing doesn't make sense going down the road. So that would be my advice anyway.
Park Committee would agree. So we'll look forward to that committee meeting, and maybe we can, I can get in touch and
yep,
regarding some other information that that committee has.
okay. The next item was just a quick update on the CIP. So there was a meeting with staff over last month to review the draft outline of the CIP projects and received comments back on that. So now we're taking those comments back to kind of reprioritize the project list. So we want to get through kind of staff review before we bring anything to council. So that'll be continuing to move forward here over the next month or so. A big one that we haven't talked about much lately is the wastewater treatment plant facility. Plans and specs were submitted to MPCA the last week in January. If you recall, under the compliance schedule in your permit, plans and specs were due by January 30th of 2023 for the mercury improvements to meet that mercury limit. So this submittal meets the requirements of that permit. The project now is waiting for funding. It's going to take the next PFA cycle after the next bonding bill. The funding would be released in probably about September. So the soonest this project would bid would probably be next winter, if funding is available through the next PFA funding cycle. So in terms of where the design is, this met the submittal requirements from MPCA, but it is not what I would call a bid set of plans and specs yet. So it's not ready to hit the street for bidding, but that's because there's quite a ways until bidding yet. So I would say we're probably about 50% complete. The treatment design is probably 80 to 90%, but there's architectural, structural, electrical, mechanical, some of those ancillary things that are gonna continue to go through design process. So there's gonna be many more meetings with staff to kind of go through the details before the project would hit the street for bidding. Depending on how that funding shakes out, you know, there are projects on the list from past years because there was no bonding bill. So it's possible that that funding may not get to the city of Aurora for this project. If that would be the case, you may just wait another year to sit on that project list. Your compliance schedule did say that you needed to be into construction by 2024. But if the funds aren't available to allow you to do that, there's not gonna be a penalty, I guess, if you will. So, so that's kind of where that project sits, and for you guys, it's just waiting till those grants are available.
Do we have to file an extension for the project if we don't get the funding, or is that something that we have to do, something that maybe you have to do, or how does that work?
I'll communicate with MPCA, so
Okay.
if there is not, typically it might just be a letter I'll draft that
Okay.
says, you know, the city can't afford this project without the grant funds aren't available, and we'll proceed as soon as the grant funds are available. I had a similar thing on a similar project where I think it actually ended up waiting a year or two for the
Okay.
funds.
Okay.
What MPCA might do, they might issue a notice of violation because they say they have to,
Mhm.
because it violates the permit, but they don't issue a fine. So there's really, we tried to get them to not issue an NOV, but in that case, they said they have to issue the NOV because it's against the permit, but there's no
Mhm.
fine. So,
Okay.
so we're gonna continue on the design. The goal is to continue to get close to bidding ready. Maybe call it 90%, and then that last bit, we usually finish up once there's actually funding in place and when we know what's gonna bid.
Okay.
So again, right now, we're probably around that 50% design
Okay.
complete. And actually, I've been hearing rumblings that the grant that you guys are eligible for because of the mercury limit, right now is capped at 7 million. I've heard rumblings that there's legislation that may up that maximum grant from 7 million to 8 or 10, particularly because of where bid pricing has gone the last few years.
Mhm.
So, you know, I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily to kind of let the funding take its course and wait for that to be ready.
Okay.
So, so that's the wastewater treatment project, and then the last item I had was the St. James Pit dewatering, which I know was discussed a little bit. So we were brought into that project a couple weeks ago here to help look at some of the options for dewatering. And so I'll just go over a brief overview of kind of the situation, because I'm not sure the background the council has, but basically there's zebra mussels in the pit, which is causing problems with summer dewatering. So right now, based on water temperature, the pit can be dewatered until the water temperature rises to a certain point, at which point it can no longer be dewatered. So we, NTS out of Virginia has been working on this, and we're teaming with them to kind of continue to work through some of these solutions and come up with costs for the different options. My goal has been to have multiple options that can be implemented depending on what happens with the pit, you know, this summer, if there's an emergency need to dewater, you know, what are the options? So I'm really trying to create flexibility for the city, so there's different options. So we're gonna continue evaluating these. I'm trying to set up a meeting next week with Administrator Heikela to get kind of him in the loop on where we are at as well. But just to generalize, I think my thoughts is that winter dewatering is the cheapest thing the city can do because you don't have to provide any treatment. So I would like to try to maximize winter dewatering however that's possible. If it's more pumping, I'd like to look at what can be done to maximize that, because that's the cheapest option. NTS has been looking at filters and UV systems to provide treatment of the water so that it can be dewatered in summer. We're going to continue to look at those options. The pit is also used for your current drinking water, so supplying water to your city is in effect dewatering the pit to some level already. Now that water is going through your treatment plant, which may be able to provide the treatment you need to dewater in summer. So another option we're looking at is, can we simply take some of the water that's already been treated at the water plant and just send it to the storm drain and pump more out of the pit through the water plant, since you already have a treatment process there. The goal would be to dewater it in the water plant before it's pumped to the tower, because that's less cost that you don't have to move that water up into the water tower. Another extremely simple option in case of flooding emergency this summer is simply to open a fire hydrant, let the water go, and let the water plant keep pumping water out of the pit. Now that's going to be the least cost effective because it's fully treated, it's been pumped to the tower. But it's also the easiest to implement because all you have to do is open a fire hydrant. And now the downside of running it through your water plant is your equipment in your water plant is stressed more because now all that water is going through there. So
Already fragile equipment that's
Right.
there.
correct, right? So so there is definitely some concern about the equipment at the water plant. My opinion would be that that's definitely a concern, but can we take funding for the project and actually put some of that money into the water plant, whether it's the pumps down there already, why can't the money go towards some of those things, if that's how we're gonna dewater? So we are trying to analyze all those options, the pros and cons of all of them. Like I said, my biggest thing is having some options, I think is the most important thing. And I think we do have some options, and then it's trying to get the most economical option and how to implement that. So we're actively working on this, and it's a priority, so we want to keep this evaluation going here over the next few weeks. So anything I missed?
Just for my information, I heard you say that you can dewater now, and that's the least expensive, and I mean, how much water can we pump out of there? Is there a cap by the?
I am not aware of a cap. I think there's a couple things that would dictate how much you can do. One is the pumping capacity, right? So you're limited by the pump capacity. So down at the pit, there are 2 pumps that pump to the water plant, and then there's a separate pit for dewatering. But can you take the water plant pumps and use those to start to dewater? That would take some plumbing changes to make those pumps work. So we could increase the pumping capacity. The next question would be the drainage basin that water is going to, are we gonna flood something by putting too much water out? So when I say maximize winter dewatering, I don't know what that means. It's just, I don't know what maximize means.
Well, the more you can get out.
The more the better.
Go.
Right, the more the better, because ultimately it's gonna make things cheaper if you have to say dewater through the water plant. So my goal is to maximize the winter dewatering and then maybe use a combination of other solutions, so.
I got a question about, there's that other pit in Bovee, I think it is.
Yeah.
And now they said the DNR is working with them, and now they said they can pump during the summer, and they're having the same problem with that zebra mussel in it. And they had a problem, remember it was going up, and they said they can't do it because of the zebra mussels, but they were working with DNR, and I thought they found something to do that. I mean, I don't know.
Well, the same DNR team that's working on that, I believe, is working on the St. James pit matters.
So there are approved methods for the treatment of the zebra mussels. So again, it kind of comes down to a cost-benefit analysis of yes, we could put in a filter system or a UV system, which basically deactivates the organisms so they can't replicate. So it's like a disinfection process. So yes, we could implement that, but then do you build a building down there to do that? How do you house that equipment, right? So there's all these costs that go into those options. So what we're trying to do with these options is put a cost to all of them and evaluate.
Speaking of which, all right, going back to your capital improvement, and just without going into any depth here, because it's not on the agenda or anything, but I know our representative has said if you have capital improvement projects which need funding, get them to him for consideration on a bill. So not realizing the capital improvement plan has to progress at a certain rate. If either the counselors or your team can come up before the bills close with some concrete, reasonable request for some capital improvement, he's at least willing to consider it. So, you know, we don't want to frivolously spend any money or anything,
Sure.
but if these are real projects and they would be on the agenda next year, but if we could get anything on this year's agenda, it would seem to be advantageous timing. So,
Yeah, and I'll take that to our team too, because originally with the CIP, the thought was 2023 was gonna be a limited project year, kind of an implementation of the CIP. But the CIP is gonna identify those higher priorities, so they're gonna be identified. So I don't see a reason why we couldn't come back with a few of those high priority ones for consideration with the council.
What would it cost to put another pump in there? I mean, you got another pump pumping the water out. Is that realistic or no?
Possibly, yes. You could. So there's 2 pumps that pump to the water plant, and some of the details, we're getting a little bit into the weeds, but
yeah, I do.
but that would be one of the options too, is maximizing the winter and dewatering, which means possibly addition of a pump.
If your group could just come back with some
Yeah.
suggestions on any of those, that'd be great.
So
Do you have other matters to report?
no, I think I've
Right.
taken enough of the
Other
meeting.
questions, Alderman Make? All right, if not, I believe that concludes our staff reports. And we go to reports from counselors. Let's see, I think our junior counselor is Counselor Hess.
I don't have too much, I got some deals on the cemetery board meeting. There's an opening on the board now. Being on liaison, my spot will be open on the board, so if anybody's interested. We have a few other issues too. It seems like our budget got raided pretty hard last year. And I don't know, there was nothing from this, that was brought to the cemetery board, but they took almost $10,000 out of our budget for that garage out there. And I don't feel, none of us feel that somebody should have come to talk to us before it was done. When we sell niches in the columbarium, that money goes into general fund. When that was set up originally by the cemetery board, that money was supposed to be in a fund that would build. So when we had to buy another columbarium, the money would be there. The money ain't there. Somebody's took it all. And we're gonna be ready for another columbarium pretty soon. So the city's gonna have to come up with $60,000 that they've already taken out of the cemetery board money. So I think your accounting system for the cemetery board has gotta change. There's gotta be some changes made there. That money can't go into the general fund. It should be designated for the cemetery when the niches are sold.
I guess I'd suggest we have a new city administrator. I assume also we're gonna have a quarterly budget report, and maybe it will be an opportunity to review the budget in other ways too. And if you could set the stage for that with some context.
Right, and there were some pretty unhappy cemetery board members when we found out all that money was taken, because it was taken in October and we didn't have a meeting till after that. And we didn't know nothing about it, and we only hold quarterly meetings, so we didn't find out until last month.
I don't recall it coming up during our budget discussions specifically. Do you, any of the counselors? Yeah, so again, one of the benefits of having a new city administrator, we have a new set of eyes looking at these, and in combination with our excellent accounting system, hopefully we can get to the root of how to remedy that problem, so.
So
You could
there's
say
60,000 missing
specifically
or 10?
designate that.
For a new columbarium,
Yeah,
60.
and all of that money is now gone.
Well, it should have been a rotating fund from the day
Right.
one when we
Yeah,
started
So it
this.
goes back into the next, so that was, yes.
And
I
that's
think
how
Butch
initially
can
how it was set
testify to
up.
that too,
It
he's
was
on the
initially-
board.
I
Yeah.
think there are precedents, right, as we noticed in the fire department report, where we reserve in capital accounts for anticipated
Right.
future capital expenditures. So there are mechanisms certainly and precedents that certainly could deal with that.
But all of us on the cemetery board, you can ask Butch, we thought that was going on, and it's not going on.
Yes.
Well, that's
It's
what we
not
understand.
right, ever since I've been on almost 20 years, and that fund has always been up to the council. I mean, if they need money, they could take it from the cemetery fund, no questions asked. And it goes into the general fund.
Duly noted.
That's gotta be changed.
That's all I got.
All right, thank you,
Other than
Councilor.
other than there's an opening on the cemetery board.
All right, well, the fact is the public meetings are an excellent opportunity to make that opportunity available. Councilor Godey.
Okay, well, on a lighter note, today is the start of my second year on the city council. Time flies when you're having fun. And at our planning and zoning meeting, it's a slow time of the year, but we had a building permit for the fire hall that was applied for, the repairs, and it was approved. So that part's done. The HRA is to the point where we need an answer from the proposed developers about the grocery store. They need to either say yes or no. They've got us held hostage for way too long, and that needs to be resolved.
I know on reliable information that there's a face-to-face meeting with the principals at the IRRB, I believe next week.
Okay.
So,
And then all the work that was done to hire the new administrator, I just want to go on record thanking Britt and Chief Suler and the mayor for all the time they put in on that.
And
Well, the mayor put in lots of hours, but it was wonderful
Don't be
that,
modest.
it was wonderful to have Britt and Tim on there. Their knowledge and experience with that, it made a big difference, and I think I'm kind of proud of who we hired. I think it really was a good decision. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor Joss.
I don't have much to report. I'm glad thank you for reporting on planning and zoning for me, Dan, and he also attended the Rams meeting while I was in my absence anyway. I too wanna go on record and say thanks to Britt and Chief Suler for stepping in and helping with the hiring process, although I know it's our job as council members to get it done, but I mean, they, out of the graciousness of their heart, came in and helped us. I was able to meet with our new administrator this week, and I'm really excited for things to come, so, really getting excited for that. Other than that, we have East Range Public Safety Board meeting next week, and I have nothing else.
Thank you, Councilor Hockler.
Well, I think I should say a thank you to all that were involved in the hiring process, and we should send out a formal thank you to Britt and Chief Suler, stating this means a lot to our city, and particularly Britt, she's under no obligation to help with these things, so I think we need to
Had a
forge a formal letter of thanks to both the individuals that
small,
helped.
yes, I was sending something off to her with a small token of gratitude. Yeah.
Can you talk to me about that later? I will
Yes.
happily donate.
All right, very good, all right.
It's pretty quiet for me as well. The Parks Committee hasn't met, and we generally don't meet in the winter. The Safety Board, the Tri-City Ambulance, we're all waiting on all those committees. The one thing I am looking forward to is our city cleanup in the spring. It's a great time to talk about it, right? February, March, April, 2 months away. We usually do it sometime around the end of April-ish, or particularly there. I know previously Wayne has asked for a heads up and get a schedule down for city cleanup. I've noticed a lot of dumping around town. Lane 55 has personal garbage bags up and down the county side of 55, which isn't the city, but it's still there. There's garbage bags left at Pine Grove, at the skating rink. It just gets discouraging to see those things. Is there currently garbage cans at the skating rink or the Pine Grove? I didn't go down there to check.
I don't believe we have any on the winter, no.
See, I think maybe we should, I know the kind that at least has a lid that you can close it, that'll, if it gives a person a place to put their Hardee's bags, we don't have Hardee's bags, you know. A garbage can. Just blows around, and then we plow it into the snowbanks, and the spring is horrendous for garbage. But that's all I have. Keep our city clean.
All right, very good. I mean, a lot of these topics, I think, are excellent to bring to our new city administrator to tell him what's going on in our minds. And I think Brian, I think he's previously worked with Bolton and Mank, right? In his prior capacity, right?
I have been working with Luke for 7 years
Yeah.
in Two Harbors, so.
So I think that'll make a nice hit the ground running sort of scenario there. Let's see, mayoral matters. Well, it's in addition to hiring our administrator, and I echo the sentiments of Councilor Godey and the rest of you that I think we have every reason to be optimistic that this is going to be a very good step for the city, and it's good to have Luke Hakela back after his absence in training, I guess, in Two Harbors. So, let's see, since our last televised meeting, we did have in relation to the water project, a visit with Senator Smith to celebrate the $4 million appropriation that her team helped spearhead through Congress last December, which greatly improves the standing of that project. We're just waiting for a $5 million grant from the state WIF fund, Water Infrastructure Program, to be able to go out for bids. So that's exciting for that. And again, for the audience, the council last meeting expressed its support for pickleball court installation on the old tennis court site on Main Street. And that group, I think, in the East Range Times advertised how they're going about a fundraising group for that. Let's see, Community Advisory Partners is a group of industrial and government officials to get together, and we had a very interesting meeting last week where we were briefed by Grant Martin from the Minnesota Housing Partnership. And both the East Range Joint Powers Board by Wabick and I think the HRA in Aurora are just absorbing the data that they've acquired relative, and I think Councilor Joffs probably has had some exposure to this, the study that's been going on and the results that are coming up that will give each of the communities on the East Range a better chance to assess the housing needs for a variety of things. But I think there's a link to the presentation, and I'll try and get that from Northspan to pass it out so we've all got that common benefit. There were an interesting thing on MediaCom is starting to embark in our northern area for the first time on fiber optic installations. They're going to be working in the Embarrass Lake area, Scenic Acres area, and they've already done some work up at Wine Ridge off of the Giants Ridge Road. So they were reporting on that to the group at that time too, and then Polymet and Minnesota Power did reports, but I won't go into depth on those. Let's see, Celebrate Aurora's actively commenced plans for the July 3rd celebration. They're also planning an April 1st Legion burger feed, and they're going to try to do a version of what was the Lions Club Community Spirit Raffle that'll be going on to raise funds for the activities of that organization. Let's see, on water project is the last thing. We're acquiring title now to the Scenic Acres easements and roadway improvements. The legal firm of Freiberger's got those actions going to again set the stage for going out for bid, hopefully within 60 days of the state grant. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got 2 bills which Representative Lizagard's authored for the community center project and for the St. James project. So there is a lot going on, and looking forward to our city administrators setting a new agenda for us. And that's all I have to report.
Mayor, if I may interject, when you said you're gonna write thank you letters, I think it should come by council action, just so it's authorized by the council, and then it's going on city letterhead.
Do I?
I'll make that motion.
All right, it's
I'll
moved and
support.
support. All right,
Support.
moved and supported. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
I got
Mayor, I
one.
got one question about that grocery store. Richard, I think you said last month you'd like to have a meeting with the owners, with the council, the house,
Like
that,
I think the IRRB is, let's say, the principal public funder on that project, and they have suggested first, certainly not exclusively, but first to have a meeting with their pertinent staff and the promoters next week, and I assume it could then lead to exactly what you're talking about, having the developer come in and give an accounting to the whole council.
you know what, because it's going on, and the city is the one that's heating that place, and how much is it costing the city a month to heat that?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's,
The only logic in the process is that there's no better option at the moment. So I appreciate the sentiments, and I think they're shared in the community there.
I got one more thing to bring it up. We're still doing blight towing, so people got vehicles that need to be towed. We towed that big motor home out of Sunset last week, and that was sitting on Maple, and so Jordan's been calling me, we're lining up some more towing, so.
All right, very good.
Not an easy job.
Huh?
Not an easy job this time of year.
Moving on the agenda, agenda item 16, old business, potential corrective sale of property to Schuring. Is that in a
Still
position
working on
for
that.
action?
Hopefully you have something at the March meeting.
All right, very good. Moving in then to new business, 17.1, Pepsi Challenge request. You have that in your packet. Let's see, city clerk, I think you put it into a cover memo, but the request was made actually for a specific city staff member, right? But
Yeah, senior one.
Director Thuringer, I gather your crew has given it some consideration, and
Yeah, I consulted with the requested individual and he expressed no interest in participating.
And so, Deputy Clerk, last year, we also did not provide anyone, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
All right, so there's a request pending from the organizers of that event, and I think it'd be appropriate if there's action to respond to them with some determination from the council. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion only for discussion.
Support.
All right, any further discussion?
Yes. Wayne, would any other individual be interested in helping at this event?
Of the 3 individuals you have, well, actually 2 individuals that you have available, neither one expressed any
So
interest.
there's 0 interest of help,
Correct.
and there is 1 individual still down from the Public Works Department?
I don't really feel that our mechanic would be a good fit for that.
Okay, so there is not another option.
All right, further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye, opposed?
Oh, hold on.
Wait.
I made a motion. What was my motion? Could you repeat it back, Lindsay?
To deny, but for
Okay,
discussion.
I just want to make sure that I
Yes.
got the proper word in there, and that I'm not approving the, let's throw urine out there.
It's always good. to
Thank
have-
you for that,
Yeah,
Lindsay.
yes.
All right, so to get back to our vote on it, and then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving on to 17.2, Celebrate Aurora request. Deputy Clerk, I think this has been a request that's come in each year, right, for the
Correct.
event, and the recommendation The request was for what, 2,500?
Correct, yep.
And the monies from that, if I'm understanding correctly, come from the gambling proceeds. Is that-
Yes, following the new gambling policy as well, so this is right up our alley.
All right, so there are adequate gambling proceeds available for that. All right, is there a
What is
motion?
that line? How much is currently available?
I would have to look, but a surplus, for sure. I would have to look the exact dollar amount.
All right, is there a motion to approve the request of the
I'll make a motion.
moved, support?
I'll support it.
Moved and supported. Thank you, Councilor Godey, for jumping in there. Let's see, further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion carries. Moving on to 17.3, we have the first of licenses under our new tobacco and cannabinoid license ordinances. And the first, I think these have to be considered, council, separately, right?
I think it's best to do the second.
All right, so the first request is from the Hive for a tobacco license. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a
that?
motion to approve.
Moved, support?
Support.
Moved and supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, the license is approved. Excuse me, second, 17.4, tobacco license for Rudy's Bar and Grill. Is there, that's for a tobacco license, is there a motion?
I'll
to
make a
approve?
motion.
Moved, support?
Support.
Moved and supported. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved. Moving to 17.5, application for a cannabinoid license from the Hive. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a go ahead.
I'll make a motion.
Moved, approved. Is there support?
I'll support.
Moved and supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved. Moving on to 17.6, cannabinoid license for Rudy's Bar and Grill. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
It's been moved by Councilor Godey and supported by Councilor Hess. All right, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's approved. 17.7, there's in a packet an amendment to the city administrator's agreement. I'm assuming that the city administrator agrees with the proposed change, or, and I believe council helped prepare that. Mitch Brunfeld, or not?
No,
No?
Lindsay did all this.
Our legal counsel, Ms. Luke.
Yeah, no, yeah. Deputy clerk did all this. As written in our cover sheet, this is literally just to follow Minnesota State retirement systems. They do not let someone have their own wording in their contract. So this actually follows union's wording of their contract word for word. So just that change. And Luke was more than fine with that.
All right, so we have a proposed amendment of the contract in the council packet there as 17.7. Is there a motion to approve that amendment? Moved, support, moved and supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. 17.8, we have a proposed resolution 2023-05, signing or actually changing the authorized bank signatories on our city banking accounts. This would be to take into account that we have a new city administrator, Lucas Hickla. There's a proposed resolution for that in the packet. Is there a motion to approve the proposed resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and supported. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Moving, the motion passes. 17.9, adopt resolution 2023-06, designating a responsible authority. This again is in response to the fact we now have a city administrator who the clerk's cover memo indicates is historically and customarily the chief administrative official of the city to be the responsible authority and data compliance officers for the Minnesota Data Practices Act. Is there a motion to approve that resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Or,
Moved and supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Motion carries. Moving to 17, agenda item 1710, adopting resolution 2023-07. Deals with a culture and tourism grant application to the Department of Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation. I believe City Clerk clarified for me, but we're requesting a $30,000 amount to be matched by funds that we have, is that correct?
I believe so. Actually, Josh Steer put this
Josh,
together.
oh, Josh.
Yep, so this was Josh, but he is working on that with Brian as well. As he mentioned, this is a part of the master plan, so just some funding for that.
Okay, so we have the 30,000 and we're asking for a match grant of 30,000? Is that your understandings?
Well, I think it's a one-to-one match, so I think as soon as we spend 30,000, we'll submit that and we'll get it back. Or if we spent 60,000, we'll submit that we spent that and they will give us 30,000. But this is actually to make applications, so no, we definitely don't have it
So let's not
yet.
count our chickens
So
before
let's,
they
we'll
hatch.
pass this first, then we'll talk. Yes.
All right, there's a proposed resolution in your packet, as just explained of record. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
That's
Support.
been moved and supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Adopt, let's see, agenda item 1711, adopt resolution 2023-08, adopting cemetery emblem fees. I don't know whether someone on the cemetery board or deputy clerk, do you want
Yeah.
to explain?
Council liaison, feel free to jump in at any point, but this actually was proposed at we only meet quarterly, so this was proposed at our October meeting. It was denied, got brought up again in January, it was approved, so it was past the fee schedule that we unfortunately already approved. So this is just a resolution adopting this fee, basically states that other than military emblems, you are allowed one emblem. That the deputy clerk went through the 800-page book and chose 3 of the pages they can choose from. So of those 3 pages, they get to pick that emblem, and it will be a flat rate of $300, because that is actually what Cold Spring charges, is a flat rate, so.
All right, and just a clarification, only approved emblems can be placed on the
Right.
columbariums?
Yep,
And they have to be put on by the city crew.
yes.
You can't go there and just put one on yourself.
So that's part of the $300 fee would be the installation also then?
Is there room, you have your nameplate, is there room for the emblem additionally?
Yes, yeah, and actually you can get them in different sizes, so if you have already purchased your columbarium niche, we can adjust the size accordingly.
Good information for the public that's listening to get acquainted with that. All right, is there a motion to approve the proposed resolution?
I'll make a motion.
It's moved.
I'll
Support.
support.
Moved and supported. Councilor Gotti, you have to be a little faster on the draw there. Okay, so.
Stepping on the wheel.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Adopted that schedule. We have a 1712 agenda item under new business, other matters. City or Deputy Clerk, is there anything to bring to our attention?
Just really quick, so I don't know if anyone hasn't had time to look at their city email, but I believe yesterday morning I sent out a thing on astrotourism. So we are going to have a meeting with that. They were going to come to this one, but unfortunately Town of White had a engagement as well, and they would like to be here. They would like to have their board here as well, because they are most likely going to adopt the same thing that we do. So, but we, as being Aurora, the city of Aurora, they would like us to be the ones kind of heading this. So that will be up and coming. Most likely you guys will see that. So if you have a chance, please review the information I sent.
I've seen the presentation at the Eastern Joint Powers Board, and yeah, you'll get a whole new appreciation of what astrotourism is all about. So,
I have one question. When is the deadline for these cigarette licenses and these other licenses? Is there a deadline?
No,
There's not
so it's gonna be a calendar year thing, so it's gonna be a January 1st through December 31st. If you already have your tobacco license from the county, you just have to prove that to me to get your THC one. But no, there's really not a deadline. You can get it at any time, but it will expire the 31st every
Well,
year.
what about the ones that are selling now that don't have a license?
That is something that hopefully the enforcement will be able to do, because
Because we have that going on.
we do. Yep, that was the whole strategy with the East Range Times ad.
Good point, and hopefully whoever may be watching is on notice. Duly, all right, we've reached the point in the agenda. I think we've concluded our business. Is there a motion? Whoops, Councilor Godey?
I wanted to ask, you know, there was talk about that tax forfeit land that's over by the old grocery store. Has anyone contacted St. Louis County or?
Yeah, with considerable prodding and assistance from the deputy clerk, I did two things. I sent a letter to Commissioner McDonald, who's now not only our commissioner, but the chair of the county board, requesting some financial contribution associated with that to the city. I was a little ambiguous because I know, and council would probably know too, state tax forfeit lands are administered by the county in a fiduciary capacity, but they don't own them. And so what now hopefully would take place in response to the letter would be some discussion with Commissioner McDonald of how the county could provide something of equivalent value that would enable that title to go in, of that parcel to go in the city's name. And then I also realized when I was doing the letter that if we didn't act quickly, the parcel could be purchased at auction. So I spoke with the county administrator of that program, and she and I quickly exchanged a PDF version of an application to withdraw it from sale. So we have time to work on it. I figured if we lost the parcel, our discussions with the county wouldn't be as fruitful. But I think the opening suggestion has gone out to Commissioner McDonald, and I would hope, he's a good, responsible communicator, so I would think that within the week, we'll probably be able to have some response from him.
He's not chair this year though, is he?
I think he is.
He was chair last year. I thought there was a new chair this year.
I
Somebody
could
from
stand corrected.
Somebody from Duluth, I think.
You think so?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, well,
I might be wrong, but I think they just changed that last month.
yeah. Well, I'll defer to whatever the record is, and it's fortunate we don't have to be too involved
Yeah.
in the county board's business. Once again, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved, is there support? There we go.
I'm good at
Get in
that.
there.
Moved and supported, all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we stand
Which
adjourned.
one?